our genes are one thing. Yes, we have a genetic predisposition for things. I'm sure there's a genetic predisposition in my family for depression and bipolar disorder. But that doesn't mean it's a sentence, because epigenetics comes in, and then that's when you get to make different choices, because you can actually change your thoughts. You can change the way you're thinking. And if you continually think different thoughts that have a positive outcome, can change your life.
What they're proving now in science is that 7 generations of our ancestors are influencing us. It's not that we can't change it. It's that if we go on default mode, which means if we go into stress, that means we're reacting to our environment, we're not interacting with it, then our genetic predisposition will show up. But we have the power to change 80% of that. And even the junk DNA, they say, changes every 40 seconds based on the light emission in our body. Hello, I'm your host, Dr. Patrick Porter. Welcome to the Brain Fitness Podcast. As my first podcast, I have some very special guests, someone I've known for quite a number of years now. Most of you probably know the family. They know she's been in TV and movies, but she's a real advocate out there for mental health. And she started a new podcast, which BrainTap is going to be actively involved in, because it's all about mental health and your brain and what we can do. And we're going to delve deep into the mind of Mariel Hemingway, who's been in this field for a long time. You know, just like me, when I looked at your date of birth, we were born in that magical year together. And, you know, before we came into this life, we said, hey, we're going to get together. We're going to do some podcast in the year 2023. And we're going to start changing lives, you know, and then we decided to take birth. And then we said, wow, it's been how many years? So it's time we start working, right? Start doing these things. So tell me a little bit about, I mean, a lot of people know your family history, but let's bring it to the surface so people understand. They might just know, hey, you know, we know that your grandfather was a great author, and, you know, and he, I don't know about his boxing career and everything he did, if he was really into mental fitness too much, you know, in all the documentaries I read about him, he was a man's man at a time when people were men, you know, men were men and women were women. There was no, you knew who, you know, what was going on out there. So tell me a little bit about your background and what got you into this mental health, really helping out the population.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And I'm just thrilled to be here, because I do think that our relationship, whether it started prior to 1961, oh my God, because we are 61 years old, or now, or we made an agreement in some other place at some other time. I do believe, anyway, I'm super excited about our collaboration, and I have known you for a long time, and I have such infinite respect for what you're doing in the world in helping people to just come to a place of balance, because that's what I'm all about. Anyway, I should tell you a little bit about my family. If you don't know, my grandfather was Ernest Hemingway. He was this incredible creative genius who, you know, changed the world of writing in the 20th century forever. Like, you know, everybody writes differently because of my grandfather. And yes, his persona was, he was a man's man, living a hard life, drinking, this, that, and the other thing. And there are many suicides in my family. So 7 to be exact. My grandfather, Ernest, took his life. His father took his life. My grandmother, Hadley's father, took his life. A great aunt, a great uncle, an uncle, and a sister took their life in my family. So I grew up with this great creativity, this great heritage, but also this great fear that I was kind of next in line to go, and I apologize if this is an offensive word for you, but I was so afraid that I was going to go crazy like the rest of my family and take my life at some point. And I did suffer from depression, and I had suicidal ideation years ago. And it was a worry for me. So, but I've spent a great deal of my life in pursuit of how can I be balanced? How can I be healthier? And I did that through kind of extreme measures. I thought it wasn't extreme. I thought I was doing really healthy, balanced things, but I was like over exercising, trying different diets, following gurus and holistic doctors and, a lot of people trying to find an answer outside myself. My point being, eventually I realized that mental health has a lot to do with taking responsibility for your brain and your life and your lifestyle. And so in the last 15, 20 years, I've really been focused on lifestyle, being in balance, being measured, being smart, being super simple, taking time for silence. Bobby and I like to talk about the 7 doctors, and our 7 doctors are Dr. Sun, Dr. Air, Dr. Water, Dr. Exercise, Dr. Nutrition, Dr. Earth, and Dr. Rest. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they're free. So, and truthfully, the simplicity of lifestyle is so powerful to the balance of our brain and our body, right? So that, and one doesn't go without the other. They are so intertwined. They are so it's this symbiotic relationship. And when you see it that way and you have an awareness of that, you realize that how we treat the brain and how we treat the body, how we eat, how we do all these different things that I was talking about with the 7 doctors, it's it's so satisfying. So anyway, I had that crazy family that I loved so much. And I finally, in the last 20 years of my life, really discovered my solution. And so what I'm doing in my life is I created a foundation. It's called the Mariel Hemingway Foundation. What a unique name. It's marielhemingwayfoundation.org. And that's Hemingway with 1 M, by the way, MarielHemingway.org. And what I want to do there, the goal of that is to create a resource navigator so that we can guide you towards the solution that works best for you, whether it's holistic or therapy or psychiatry or whatever it is in your area. So that's the dream of the foundation. And I also started that, and thank you, Patrick, because you mentioned this. I also started a podcast and radio show called Out Comes the Sun. And that's a metaphor for this, literally the sun coming out and lighting you up, because anybody who knows about mental health or depression or that dark night of the soul knows that there's a darkness that kind of overcomes you and you feel like you're in a hole that you can't get out of. And I truly believe that there are solutions for everyone. So that was a very long answer to your question.
No, that's wonderful. I think people want to know that. That was great. Now, I know you and I share a passion for the belief that it's not all psychological. Like people think it could be physiological. There's a lot of things going on with our bodies and what's going on. So going back to your 7 doctors and people not understanding, because I'm a big believer that we're just taking ancient traditions and making modern technology out of them. And so in your case, when you're doing like Out Comes the Sun podcast, you're introducing different strategies and techniques for people. But you and Bobby, I know, have a special, you get out there outside every day, you're walking, you're doing things.
Yes.
He was sharing with me how he gets so much sunlight and it's working with his vitamin D. So maybe share with people, they don't understand that you don't have to live in New York City or Detroit, Michigan, like where I'm from, where the sun never comes out, to suffer from seasonal affective disorder. And that's a physiological thing. It's not a psychological. I mean, a lot of people are taking psychological medicine, but they don't need to be. They can be getting physiological medicine. So tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I mean, to go to a doctor and then have them say, well, you're suffering from SAD, seasonal affective disorder, or whatever it is, or depression, or bipolar. And I'm not saying that all medication is, I don't believe in it. I personally don't believe in it, but I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying, how can we not realize that how we're living our lives, if you're not getting the light in your eyes, it is affecting your brain. I mean, I'm here in Venice, California. right now because Bobby has this chamber, and we can talk about that probably on another episode. It's going
I'd love to
take
interview him about that. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it is, June, they call it June gloom, right? And so it gets foggy, and it's foggy all day. And I got to tell you, the days that it is low light and you're not seeing the sun, it affects me. I'm deeply affected by light. So getting light in your eyes is so incredibly important. We absorb our vitamin D through our eyes, believe it or not, mostly through our eyes and through our skin. But so we have this idea that pills are the solution for everything. And I really believe lifestyle is the solution for everything. And just like you said, it's all these ancient traditions that we're kind of finding a technology for. It's like what you've done with BrainTap, which is ingenious. You're taking what we know about the brain and what we know, and we're condensing it into something that's very focused so that, and you started with the De Silva method, which is a meditation thing, but people don't have a lot of time or the discipline to do things in that way. And now they get to put on your, this incredible, eye thing and listen to stuff. And it takes you deep, super fast, and changes your brainwave. Because, what I've been discovering lately is that, our genes are one thing. Yes, we have a genetic predisposition for things. I'm sure there's a genetic predisposition in my family for depression and bipolar disorder. But that doesn't mean it's a sentence, because epigenetics comes in, and then that's when you get to make different choices, because you can actually change your thoughts. You can change the way you're thinking. And if you continually think different thoughts that have a positive outcome, you can change your life, right? And that's the whole basis behind kind of meditation, because the brain doesn't distinguish, which I find fascinating, and you know this more and in more depth than I do. I find it fascinating that the brain has no idea between what you visualize and what happens in your real world as being different. So what you constantly think, and you have that vision in your head, is what your brain will, activate and attract to you. So all these kind of woo-woo concepts of laws of attraction and all that stuff, it's actually scientifically based. It's just because if you keep thinking the same thing all the time, that's what you're going to attract to yourself, right? If you're afraid of something, like I think of my mother, who was so afraid to get sick, but she was so hurt, whatever. Her thoughts were, I'm going to be sick, right? It was just, she was, because that's what she thought about all the time. And she did, she got cancer, and, my point is, we have so much more power in our brain and in our choices than we give ourselves credit for. And it's just about becoming aware of that and going, damn, I can, I just feel excited by my life that I kind of feel at 61, you probably feel similar. I feel like this is the beginning of my life. I think, oh, we're starting up and we're doing new things and we're discovering all these, technology is a little scary, but it's also great. Let's use what's great about it, not be afraid of things, turn it off at the end of the day so that you're not constantly attacked by that energy. But I don't know. I just think all these different things are so powerful. And we're powerful.
Yeah, you mentioned a few things that BrainTap Nation and people out there probably have heard before, but let's put it into context. We now know scientifically that we are light beings. That used to be a metaphysical concept, in the 70s and 80s when I'm driving my car and in the back window it said I am light. People thought I was nuts, but now science is showing we are light. Yeah. Like you're saying, if we don't get enough energy, and there's a couple different ways to get energy, right? We can go outside, get in the sun. We can use light therapy with the right wavelengths. We can also go outside and just get energy from the earth. Most people don't realize the sun is actually it's like a pulse. Just because there's a pulsar out there, they know that it's transmitting actually FM frequencies. Our sun is transmitting information to the cells of our body. So tell us a little bit about what you found, because I know you're a big advocate of earthing. That's how we met at first at an event where you spoke about that. And I knew of you before that, but it was like, that's powerful. And I think everyone needs to know that people have.
Powerful. We don't realize that connection to the earth is incredibly powerful. So yes, we get sun, we are light beings. Earthing is a powerful thing that actually my partner, Bobby Williams, kind of introduced me to. Now, if I think about my childhood, I was grounding and earthing all the time. I was always barefoot. The summers were, I'm on my bicycle, I'm, hanging out in the rivers and the streams, I'm running around barefoot because that's just what you did. You didn't even think about it. And then when I met Bobby 15 years ago, he's like on a trail, taking his shoes off. And I'm like, fun. So I started taking my shoes off and, walking barefoot on the trail going, I had to toughen my feet up. That took a while. But the power of that is incredible because we are electrical beings. So electricity is coming up through the earth, and those electrons, those negative ions are coming up through the earth, and we're absorbing that, and it's helping us, and it gets rid of the buildup of electrons that are bad in the body and helps you release them. So that connection to the earth is powerful. And of course, we all started wearing shoes in the 1950s that were rubber soled. So 90% of human beings on the planet, probably 99%, are never grounded because they're always grounded out because rubber prevents you from connecting with the earth. So it's very important that if you go to the beach, and I'm here at the beach right now, and I see people walking on the sand in shoes. And I want to wear a sign that's like, please take your shoes off so that you can ground, because it's so powerful. Like, you cannot believe it. I mean, when I go flying anywhere, and I'm like you, I travel a lot. If I, get out of the hotel room and I just go into their grassy area, wherever it is in the front of the hotel, and take my shoes off and just stand there or just sit on the grass for a while, it grounds you and it helps relieve you. It helps you with your circadian rhythms. These are techniques that are super powerful and effective like that. And then I got involved with the company Earthing, which is earthing.com, and they provide these, they have grounding mats to sleep on, and mats that you can put underneath your computer, so it eliminates some of those EMFs and you can ground. So there's all kinds of ways that you can make it work for your lifestyle. So you don't have to necessarily go on a trail and go, ouch, 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 like I did in the beginning.
Right. And you can also find online, I got some moccasins for our property, and I got them at home, and I go outside because we live in the forest and it's not sandy beaches. So, but I want to get that grounding in. And most people don't understand it. I tell them, go into Lowe's the next time, use a volt-ohm machine. They have them there that measures electricity. Most people that we measure, especially at trade shows, are running around with 3 volts of energy running through their system. And that would be like, basically an interference, like when you're trying to watch a television show, but you have this electrical impulse, you're not getting the right signals, your cells aren't getting the right energy. And then as soon as you ground, it goes away. You should be at 0 point energy. And we at trade shows, it's really because we use one of Clint's mats. I travel with one. It's underneath my computer now, and I just touch it every once in a while when I'm on the computer, because I know what happens when I'm sitting here. I'm absorbing. Our cells have little cells on them like batteries. And they're absorbing the energy, and it doesn't care what that energy is. It could be positive for us or negative. It's just their job is to gobble up energy. And of course, earth frequencies are between 0.5 and 100. These frequencies are way above what our body's used to handling. And the biggest problem I tell people is, even with EMF, because a lot of people talk about EMF poisoning and things like that. We found that grounding, we took somebody right underneath the 5G tower. We measured them. They were like getting hammered. Some people had up to 7, 8 volts of energy moving through their system. Now, luckily, about 80% of the people don't recognize that, but 20% can pass out even. And then we had them take off their shoes they were now at 0 point, their body had 0. So our body is designed to take anything that's not healthy for us and ground it into the earth. But if we don't,
Get rid of it.
have that, if we don't have that connection, I'm experimenting now. There's a company that came out with some shoes that have silver lacing through them. So while they look like dress shoes, and I've just got them, I haven't been able to really wear them yet.
Gosh,
But I'm hoping
is it only a man's shoe, or do they have
no, women's too?
Oh my God. I mean, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, Clint came out with a flip flop, but not everybody wants to wear a flip flop. And, that's also like, you got to adjust to the toe thing.
Yeah,
but
there's going to be more and more. Yeah. People are finding out that there's like, even we work with TB12, Tom Brady's group, and our science officer made his clothing. It has reflective materials in the clothing that reflect back our own infrared light. So we're going to find that the future is really bright because we're realizing that we are light beings. But let's move on to the next doctor. Let's talk a little bit about when you think about I always tell people the number one thing for mental wellness is your diet, because you can't outthink a bad diet. So tell me what you think about that and what you would recommend if somebody's feeling depressed, anxious, stressed out, anxious. These all start with first thoughts, and it can be derived. There's never been a shooting like these mass shootings you see, and they know the person is like mentally something's wrong with them. They always had candy bar wrappers around them, 100%. Things like this. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts on that.
Well, my thing is just eat real food. Right. And what real food is not processed food, any kind. So if you're in the market and you just consider the middle of the market a place that you don't go. It's taboo. You can't go in there. You'll get electrocuted if you do.
That'd be good.
It's the outer rim of the grocery store that has real food, fruit and vegetables on one side. You've got your dairy products. Hopefully you're going to get organic, and maybe if you have some great access to, you'll get raw. But you want to do as much organic, clean food as you possibly can, right? And it doesn't mean you can't eat meat, but just eat it grass-fed, grass-finished, free-range chicken and eggs, and really and when possible, go to a farmer's market, a local farmer's market, because our bodies really, our bodies are kind of archaic. They really understand food of the season. So if you're living in where you're living, right, that it's summer, the farmers markets are in high, they're getting just amped up. And throughout the summer, you'll have all these wonderful things that are at farmers markets. And people don't realize that 75% of the population is within 5 miles of a farmer's market and don't even know it. So that's eating locally, but it's just basic. Cut out sugar. Sugar is it's an addiction, as addictive as any addictive thing. Alcohol, sugar, which alcohol is sugar, by the way, that's how it reacts in the system, but it also reacts on the brain, and it also reacts on the liver. So just be mindful that, alcohol is it's not your best friend, and especially if you suffer from any kind of depression. It's a depressant. So just be mindful of those things. I never tell people what to do. Just be mindful. Like if you like to have a glass of wine, it's not every day. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once a month, whatever. But it's about being mindful of the foods that will cause, I call it brain noise, literally. Like processed foods causes brain noise. Gluten, not because gluten per se is bad, because if you go to Italy and eat gluten, you'll feel fine. But here we have sprayed our crops with glyphosate so badly, and we have these GMO crops, which are like, it's not even real food. I'm not sure what it is. So we have to be really responsible for how we shop. And like, I spend my money, Bobby and I spend our money on food. Food and drinking good water, it's a game changer, and we feel differently because of it. And it's not hard. Everybody's, oh, it must be so awful. You eat, it's so plain. It's not. You just learn how to. I made a cookbook called Mariel's Kitchen, and I did all my recipes are from my mother's recipes when I was a kid, because she grew up in Idaho, but she also went to Cordon Bleu in Paris with Julia Child, which is another story. And she had all these great recipes, but so I went in and I made them gluten-free, I made them seasonal, and I made them healthy, right? Yeah, and you can do that with anything. It's just about, is your health, your brain health, and your physical health important to you? And that means you take responsibility for every choice you make throughout the day. And I think, especially your listeners, are probably really very interested in having a healthy brain and body. And so it's up to you. It's not somebody in a white coat giving you a pill or whatever. And off you go doing whatever you want. You go back to smoking cigarettes and drinking a lot of alcohol, like it doesn't that way. You gotta, and some things you'll look at and go, I don't want to get, it's about, okay, let's find some happy medium. Let's be, we have to make some compromise if you want good health.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is right on, in that people have different ways of coping with stress, right? Stress is a big factor in all of this. And most people don't understand how the body operates, right? We have our liver. I tell one of my favorite articles that had millions of downloads and views is called "How Stress is More Fattening Than Chocolate," because our liver houses 25 grams of sugar to help us through those stressful moments when we were on the Serengeti and we're being chased by wild animals. But that's not happening anymore. We're being chased by social media or whatever, or by our our family. And there's drainers and there's gainers in our lives. And sometimes mental awareness are the people you're teaming up with on a day-to-day basis, are they helping you to grow healthy? Because you can't take a pill to get rid of family members. I mean, you got to keep those around, but you can choose your friends, right? And who you're doing. So, couple questions.
You manage stress through the choices you make, right?
Yes.
And you're so right. We're not in fight or flight, and yet this, the do you call it the limbic brain is still in that sort of that like fight or flight mode, because we think we're being attacked, but we're not. And that's when you sort of need to really address your story. Like, where is this trauma coming from? And figure out a way, however, and NLP with this, that, and the EMDR, whatever, find a way, or your meditations, find a way to eliminate this hold that your trauma, your story has on you, because you've interpreted something that happened long time ago, and it's kept you in a space of, terror now, today. Like, why,
What they're proving now in science is that 7 generations of our ancestors are influencing us. So it's not that we can't change it. It's that if we go on default mode, which means if we go into stress, that means we're reacting to our environment, we're not interacting with it, then our genetic predisposition will show up. But we have the power to change 80% of that. And even the junk DNA, they say, changes every 40 seconds based on the light emission in our body. They call it biophotic exchange. And your attitude plays into it. We always hear we're the sum total of our 5 people we hang out with. If we're hanging around with 5 drug addicts, we're probably going to be the 6th. If we're hanging around 5 bankers that are making a lot of money, we're probably going to be the 6th millionaire or whatever. And Charles Tremendous Jones used to say, you're the 5 books you just read, things like this, because it plays a role into it. So if you were to coach, just in general, someone listening to this podcast and say, here's the thoughts, here's how you can change your thoughts. Besides brain tap, they're going to know about brain tap and what's going on there and changing that and doing what's necessary in the morning and afternoon. But what would you say is the Mariel recipe, like your recipe book? What's your recipe for getting proper thinking? Because a lot of people think that they don't have control over that. They basically think life comes at them instead of life comes through them.
Right. Well, the habits of silence and meditation in the morning and in the evening if you can, but at least once a day. That habit of taking time for stillness, and in that stillness, asking yourself, what are those thoughts that you keep asking yourself? Literally, what are the thoughts that you would like to not be thinking anymore? Allow them to come up, address them, name them. Fear, for me, it's defensiveness, like whatever, whatever those trigger things, name them. Then also think of the feelings that come up that you don't want to think, and name those. And then go from naming the negative to then imagining what you would like to be thinking, and feel that, like literally feel that in your heart, like feel, okay, I want to feel my wisdom. I want to feel energy. I want to feel happy. I want to feel playful. I want to feel curious. I want to feel abundant, whatever it is. And really like imagine those words as feelings and really feel them. And then, take it from that to then the intention is, after your time in silence, your intention is to remember, not to forget, that that's how you want to feel. And also remember to not forget the negative feelings when they come up, to see them, because awareness is the first step, I believe, in actually being able to let them go. Because once you're aware, oh gosh, I thought that negative thought again, you have a choice, right? If you're unaware of those thoughts happening, you don't have a choice. But when you tell yourself to be aware, you will, because the brain's really, it's fast, it's quick to learn. We just don't give it a lot of credit, and we don't exercise it enough.
Right. Yeah. And that's the whole reason we're doing the Brain Fitness podcast, because everyone out there is going through the hero's journey. They just don't know it. I mean, if you look at that and you really break it down, whether you're already through the dark night of the soul and now you're training and teaching and transforming other people's lives, or you're in the middle of that, or you're just beginning that journey, it's important to understand that everyone goes through this. You don't, it doesn't cost you money.
Oh my God.
The people that have the most money still go through this, and
that's the thing. We all think, oh, if I only got to blah, 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 a million followers, or I only got to $1 million. At the end of the day, you can fix this now. It's within your purview, and it has nothing to do with the outer circumstance. It has to do with your inner workings, which only you. And that was the journey of my life. When I realized it was me that had the answers to me, not Bobby, not you, not this, not a guru. Not that I don't appreciate and learn from all of the experiences, but it's me at the end of the day that can determine what's right for me.
Right. I think that's very important. One of the people we're going to get on this podcast series, Rod Hairston, he does a lot with corporate America as well, but he always says there is no there. Like, people think when they get there, something's going to change. It's the journey, and you're never going to stop. I mean, when you think about in sport, like when Tiger Woods was at his peak, he still wouldn't let people interview him or go golfing with him because he said he had too much to learn. He was always, and you would think that wasn't the case, but those people that are always looking for not perfection, but just movement, and realizing that the journey is the solution, and it's a lifetime journey, right? So if someone was to go hang out with you as we wrap this podcast up today, if they were to say, hey, I want to be a little fly on your shoulder or whatever, following you to go through your day, that doesn't buzz around your head, keeps their distance, but watches you go through your day. Tell us a little bit about your, just an everyday when there's no stress, nothing really needs to be done. It's your day to do what you want. How do you take care of yourself to keep your mental fitness?
Every single morning, I drink water. It's one of the first things I do. I add real salt to it, Redmond's real salt. Because we are electrical beings, and you want to like replenish, and you're dehydrated after a night of sleep. And then I go and I have to feed the animals, but you don't need to. Then I go and I meditate every morning. It's very important. And I vary it from I like to do a very, version of it, but I always, and in my meditation, I always hold some space to be grateful for everything, for is exactly the way it is, because I think a lot of what you've been talking about is how do you stay present? And that's kind of the key here. It's like, how can you just stay here? Because it's like the doctor you were just saying, there is no there, right? If you're there, you're not here. And if you're not here, then where are you? Because that's the key. So all of my rituals, like my morning rituals of meditation, even when I make coffee, and I do like coffee, even though my husband is like, coffee's bad for you. I love it. I love the ritual of it, so I make sure it's organic, but I love the smell. I try to slow mundane rituals down so that I can be extremely present with them, right? The smell of things, the feel of the water when I'm washing my hands or my face in the morning, like if you slow those silly mundane things down, like brushing your teeth, you become it brings you back to yourself, because ultimately we're always doing the silly stupid things every single day, but if you pay attention to them, it keeps you here, and you find tremendous joy in the simple things that you do in life. And I would say that if somebody were following me around, they would see, I love movement. I go out for walks. I also go to the gym. I vary things. I love to hike. I love to walk. I love to ride my bike. I love cold plunges. I love all these things that become trendy, but I love them because they make me feel so much, right? A cold plunge is just a powerful way to just like, shock the system into into being present. So I do a lot of that. I'll be in Idaho in a few weeks, and every day I go into a stream behind our house, or, the river down the road, every single day after a hike or something, because those things are powerful. They're habits that align you to the earth, and the earth is our most powerful teacher, I think.
I agree. I think that's very important. So when you're talking with friends or family member, people meeting you first time, what is the number one thing you recommend they start with? Because some people, their life's a mess. They don't even know it until they start, and I do believe that awareness is the number one step, because if not, you're like Bruce Lipton says, 95% of our life is controlled by our subconscious. So if you're not aware, those are the habits that we formed that form us. And as soon as they become aware, they're no longer habits. When somebody says, I keep thinking this, well, if you're thinking, it's not a habit anymore. You can change it.
Yes.
But if you don't know about it, it becomes unawareness. So what do you find is where's the starting point? If somebody said, hey, Mariel, what do I do first? Because I have to change everything. Maybe they're drinking. I mean, I have had people say, I only drink a little bit, and then I find out it's 2 bottles of wine a night. When I'm talking to them, they go,
Right.
Or they go, I only eat a little bit of sugar, and then they go, but I have to have dessert after every meal. Things like this. What do you think is the number one place people should
Well, when it comes to food, there's all kinds of things. I would say, try a meditation practice and try 5 minutes, right? That I would say that would be something. But also when it comes to food, and food is a big issue, right? You have to do it every single day, but it's it's the biggest addiction, really. Not just sugar, but it's like food, and we become obsessed with it. Trust me, because I had a food issue early on in my life. I would say if you have to change the way that you eat, start with breakfast. Start with the first meal that you do a day. And if you can just focus on that one meal, change your breakfast, it might actually make you want to think about changing what you eat for lunch. And then you might feel better, and you might change what's for dinner. My whole thing is, if you want to change something, it's better to just go slow, take small bites at this changing things, and see how you feel. And don't give yourself a hard time. So you screw up, who cares? You're always one choice away from making a good choice, right? So you screwed up, made a bad choice, don't give yourself a hard time. At dinner, I'm going to make a good choice. Oh, I failed and I can't do anything. That's not true. You're always one choice away from making a better choice, to taking a deep breath. Oh, wow. I didn't realize I don't breathe that much, right? It's just, we have to start slow. Breathing is a big thing, and that would be another thing that I would say, be conscious of breath. It's one of the doctors.
Yeah.
Breathe. We've been on this planet for so long, we have to breathe. And yet we breathe from here to here, most of us, right? We're not breathing into our bodies because our bodies need oxygen. So breath is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, those are great. Now we have we're going with the breath masters. We have most of them on YouTube are coming on to Brain Tap. We're going to be encoding their sessions because I do a little bit of breath work. I teach people, but not like these guys. It's their whole career. We haven't got Wim Hof yet, but we have a lot of the others. And I think that.
Oh, we've got a great guy, Brian McKenzie. He's a great breath guy.
Oh, I'd love to, yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to him. Maybe you can share with us a link to him. We can put it in the show notes and people can find out about him.
Definitely.
So yeah, we can do that.
BrianMcKenzie.com. So yeah.
We'll get that out there. So our last question, I know you're an advocate now for Brain Tap. We're doing things together. So maybe some people use Brain Tap once a week, some people 3 times a week. No matter what they're doing with it, what would you say are the biggest benefits you find when using Brain Tap, especially for a novice, somebody who's never done any meditation or relaxation techniques?
Well, I think if you haven't, it's probably the best way to start, because it's kind of like it's like you have training wheels. It's like you're putting on. It just gets you there really quickly. You do feel this sense of ease. And, probably so many of you are stressed. I mean, we live in a very stressful world, and we're talking about stress, and you will feel immediately less stress. You will feel immediately your body just relax. And we don't relax enough. And it will help your sleep. And sleep is another thing. And we'll probably talk about that in a whole episode, next time. Sleep is just powerful. That's how I used Brain Tap in the beginning. I was having some issues with sleep because I was stressed and I would wake up in the middle, but that actually stopped it almost immediately. So I would say powerful stuff.
That's good. Yeah, with 2/3 of the world not sleeping, it probably has a lot to do with everything we talked about. Not just everybody wants that one pill, and most people don't realize that sleeping pills, in all the research, only add 4 minutes of quality sleep. They basically put you out of your.
It feels so weird. I remember I haven't taken one in decades, but it felt horrible. It was weird. I felt this, after anyway.
It's your own medication is your meditation. It can be your medication, right? So that'll help you to offload those things. So while we round out this episode, I know we're going to have you back because you have so much to share, and we're going to get you. If I have to come out and kidnap you, take you to New Bern to get some recordings of your meditation, so we get them on Brain Tap.
I so want to do that. Oh, you have no idea. We're going to
do that when we get our cabin all done. You can stay out at the river. We can have you and Bobby come out, spend some time there, and we'll set up a recording studio there. We'll get something out of you. But what if I forgot to ask you for this week? And please reinforce Out Comes the Sun, how people can find that podcast.
I would say I have a partner, Melissa Yamaguchi, who is a Feng Shui master and Chinese astrology. She's so I have this podcast and radio show. We're on radio stations around the world. And we have a sunrise section where we kind of catch up and we talk about what's going on in the world, or what we talked about on our morning walk. And then we go into a half an hour interview with people like yourself, or celebrities that have a story to tell, or a regular person with a story to tell. And then we have Melissa does an energy tip. She'll tell you, a color that you want to focus on this month of June or whatever. And then I do kind of a balance tip, which is basically drink water, like I tell you to drink water, or, like I'll do a breathing technique that you can do at the stoplight or something. So,
Mhm.
and then we wrap it up. It's an hour-long show from end to end, but it moves really fast, and it's really informative, and it's really fun to hear. I mean, like, we had John Cleese on. Oh my God, you're like, I'm John Cleese. He's laughing, and he's laughing like John Cleese.
Yes.
So fun. So we have a really good time. So there's that, and you are a sponsor of that shows, and I couldn't be more grateful, because I just feel like what we're doing in the world together is just, it's about community, right? And I only want to share. I just want to share good things and do good in the world by sharing.
Yeah. So that's excellent. That's what you're doing. So Brain Tap Nation's out there listening to this Brain Fitness podcast. Please like, share, get this out to everyone you know, because they suffer in silence usually until it's too late. And so just get it to them, let them listen, let them start understanding these 7 doctors you're talking about, because they can do that for free. I mean, most of the stuff, I mean, you can, when somebody says, what should I eat? I said, just don't have a label on it. You're probably good. The more, if God labeled it, it's probably pretty good for you. If it hasn't, my kids, when they were growing up, they could eat anything they want as long as they could read the label. My daughter became very good.
and knew what each
Yes.
of those ingredients meant. You might be able to read it, but Bobby and I once went into when we go on road trips, we often go into the gas station. We challenge each other to find the most unhealthy food. And I think it was a pink snowball. Still matches it. It's unbelievable. It's like this long of ingredients that you don't even know what they are.
Right. Well, I was amazed on the air flight the other night. I thought I would just get some of the cran apple.
Yeah.
And I said, let me see the label. Let me see the can. 55 grams of sugar.
Yeah.
Our body can only have 5 grams in our bloodstream at any one time. So, I mean, and I'm thinking Coke doesn't put that on the side of their thing. It's probably the same amount, 55 grams of sugar.
And it's probably high fructose corn syrup, which is even worse than sugar, if that's possible. Like, I mean, the effect on your body is so extreme. I tell people, like, if you, that's another great diet tip. It's like, if you want to just lose weight really fast, take out diet soda, take out any diet drink whatsoever. And it's mind blowing.
Right.
It's just crazy. Anyway.
Yeah. Some of the simplest things, when you start making, that could be the first step for somebody, really. When we used to have our weight loss clinics, if we could get them off, I said, you can drink all the diet soda you want, as long as you drink 3 times the amount of water first. And then they go, well, I won't want the soda then. I said, that's the point.
That's the point. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's so bad. And what it does to your brain, those like, fake sugars are crazy. It causes brain inflammation.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's crazy. So a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to learn and grow. This is episode 1. So I want to thank everyone who's listening. Please help us grow this. Everyone has a brain. Everyone needs to keep it fit. We're about teaching people that you have within you the power to transform who and what you are. And Mariel, I want to thank you for your wisdom. I'm looking forward to the next thing that you do, taking time out of your schedule. So thanks again. We're going to post everything in the show notes. There'll be a transcript you can download too if you want to look at that. We're going to get it out to the world and let's get helping people better their brains. And there's a lot of ways to do it. So this is only one. We're going to have different guests along the way to help you to really get your brain fit. And it has to do with every part of your life, because your brain touches every part of your life, and part of your life touches your brain. So we need to form a really powerful relationship with our physiology and our psychology and get our body to do what it's designed to do. So thank you.